For me, the universe is like a big school where we all are learning. There is no masters, no the students. There are only a big classroom where we are all looking into different directions. So sometimes when we are very focused on our own direction, we forget that we are all in this classroom. So sometimes there is one of those that try to speak louder and explain the other ones that we all have to unite the different perspective of that classroom. We used to call them the librarians. And I used to be one of them. And but we all were working on that network too. But a long time ago, we decided to live in this reality, so we are focused on the third dimension. So in some moments where we are switching our perspective on dimensions, we need people that already know those other dimensions to explain how it works. The problem is that don't even us, like me, have all the answers. We have only another perspective. So don't really believe everything I say. Just took the information that resounds with you. Because there are many channels to explain what I'm going to explain. And there is many reflections and many distortions in the speech I will take. The first one is that this is not my language. But there's another one, which is my culture and the translation. And what I remember from the whole, which is not everything, and also the way I was raised in this life. And we are three things in just one here: the spirit, the soul, and the body. And usually the spirit wants something that the body don't want, and the soul is like someone dancing trying to understand what the other ones want. Until we get a common sentence in between those three, is very difficult to explain something. So that's why I say only take the things that resound, because sound is the only thing that bounds everything in the universe. And if it doesn't resound, it doesn't mean it isn't true. It just means that that's not the truth I need now. In the universe, the lie doesn't exist. Only exists different perspective of the truth. So that's one of the things we are going to see here to try to understand. The thing is that what I try to do, I have two kind of jobs in this life, which is one, to help people remember in one hand, and then reconnect the network of the consciousness in the planet, which is also remember, put the members together. Right now, this is the pedagogical part, so I want to try to answer all the questions that you have according to what I'm going to explain, which is what's the shape of this big classroom and where are we on that classroom. What I'm trying to explain is about all these concepts that thousands of years we were learning in different lives, in different studies, catching all this information, so trying to put it all together. And one of the things I try to do is not to prepare anything I'm going to say, because maybe I explain something that you don't want to listen, so if you ask, we go in that direction. So the main thing is try to understand the reality we had created, why we created, what's the goal of everything that we created, at least in essence or the basement. And also to try to realize how to be not only aware but responsible of what we have created. We have 2,000 years of cultural legacy of Christianity, for sure. We have this kind of things about blame yourself, about your sins and all this stuff, about Jesus Christ as a Lord. If we don't believe that in ourselves, is recorded. We organize the reality in such a way that the responsibility is outside. So to try to understand the reality in this way I'm going to explain, it means that we have to try to forget about many of the things we have learned in our cultures. But it doesn't mean that we have to just forget, because that culture is the basement to understand this. So I guess that I don't know usually where to start, if the big picture or the small picture and then go beyond. I don't know, what do you prefer? I usually start by the big picture, because the big picture is easily for me. And because of the universe is fractal, so whatever we take in this conversation, it would be the same, the big picture or the small picture, doesn't matter. But also the problem is that the universe doesn't have a core. So that's the main problem why it's difficult to explain the universe, because you don't know where to start. So one of the main things to understand the universe and the reality is to understand the perspectives of the universe, which we call the dimensions. You all know what dimension means? Or a little idea? In which one we are, for example? Do you have an idea? At least what we are observing right now.
The third.
The third. We are on the third. Yeah, we are here in this third dimension. But we are moving on the fourth dimension. Our goals in our life are in the fifth dimension, but the way we move in our lives, it's the second dimension. And we have no idea about the sixth dimension for sure. That's why we are trapped in this kind of reality. To understand where we are, we have to first understand that we are in the third dimension. But there is some mistake in which we usually, the spiritual people, fall usually, that we believe that we are in the third dimension, and if we go to the fourth dimension, we go high, and then the fifth dimension go higher, and like that. And we have to remember that the universe is not like this. It's not layers. Actually, all dimensions exist right now, here, at the same moment. Dimensions means the different perspectives of just one reality. And to understand all these dimensions, we have to understand what is that only reality. And this only reality is from we all come from and where we are all going to. Which dimension do you think it is? If we are all coming from one point, what's the first dimension?
0 point.
The 0 point, yeah. The 0 point, now we are going to see it. And then we have 3 points more where we go back to the center. 1, 7, and 9. What we call the 0 point, the main point of everything, is the emptiness, the vacuum, which is the acknowledge of the self, is the being in complete meditation. It's just one consciousness in complete meditation. So it's just one being, just thinking in nothing. That's why he knows everything, or it knows everything. But we used to explain in these dimensions, we used to explain this story like this. The main consciousness, it was the nothing, the emptiness. And then he knew a lot of things about himself, but he had no idea what could it be? What could he be in the future? So we have one reality, which is I know who I am, but who could I be? So the 0 point is just an answer and a question in the same sentence, which is like I am,
Yeah.
but with a kind of question. So the librarians used to say that consciousness is like someone living on a big library with many books, and he read all the books, everything. He knows everything read in the books, but he never there to go outside the library to see if that things that he was reading about were real or not. So the 0 point is the moment in which that being is sitting with all this knowledge here and just empty, thinking nothing. And the start moment, the 1 dimension, is when he realizes, or it or she, whatever, realize that must open the eyes and see if it is true. So, according to this, the whole process of the universe, everything that we know, everything that we will know, is just about knowing ourselves. And to find all the paths that could show us the possibilities of who I am. So, to draw it, I hope you could see. So, we imagine that we are in the 0 point, emptiness, the vacuum, where everything is. Nothing exists, not even time, not even space, nothing. Just the consciousness of the self. And then I realized that to find myself, I must open my eyes. So what it was sure for me, which is I am, now starts as a question, who I am. So there is number 1 coming up. Is the first dimension. The first dimension is that dimension in which after that meditation we open our eyes and see everything around us. And is where we can see all the books of the reality projecting outside from within. So at this moment we realize that we have to move, because when we see everything, suddenly it's like a very desperate situation, because there's so much that we don't know where to go, what to do. So there's when the second dimension comes. When I focus my complete vision in just one point. So I go out from myself to look for a part of myself. We call that the positive, because it's the movement I do to go farther, to look for some point. And I decide where to start, which book I decide to start. In other words, we used to call the positive the purpose. The purpose. So all of us has the same purpose. We all share the same purpose. But then it starts to divide. So, but what happened in the universe when you have a positive? Inevitable, we have the negative. Why is that? Because when I move from the very center forward, it means that I am leaving something behind. Yeah? It's the strength, a force that will pull me to the center again. So when I look and I focus on the purpose, there is something behind me that we call mission. So this is the two perspectives of the universe. The second dimension, purpose and mission. We also used to call this time and this space. What it means, that the purpose is where we move and we flow around the universe. And the space is the only place where we can experience this. You can't focus on one point if you don't have two eyes. So that's why we need two parts of our being to focus on one point. I'm not speaking about good and bad. I'm speaking just positive and negative. So this is the second dimension. And then what we are going to see here is that at the moment we move to the positive, there is something that is pulling us to go back to the center. That is the magnetism, also called the gravity. So gravity and magnetism try to pull us to go back to the core, to the center of ourselves. This is an eternal movement, once and again, trying to look for the core, for the center. We used to call this proton, neutron, electron, the Trinity. I know that we used to call the Trinity the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You know that. Christianity have this way of seeing the Trinity, and the science has this way of seeing the Trinity. What we call the Holy Spirit is the Spirit. The Father is the soul, for example, and the Son is the body. So the Trinity too. But this is something really human or cultural. Biologically, we have the Mother, the Father, and the Son. Yeah, but in the main core of the universe, we have these three, which is time, space, and gravity. For sure, most people here are spiritual people. So we used to call this the light, the dark, dharma, karma. And to this we call love. Yeah? Gravity is the love. But this is so a human way of seeing it. That love is not the love that two humans have each other. Love is something more simple and complicated. So love creates the sun between positive and negative. The sun is the one that is allowed to see both in just one spot. If you are the negative, in order to see the positive, and if you are the positive, in order to see the negative, you need a third point of view. So that's why we create the third dimension.
In zato se ustvari tretja dimenzija, smo ustvarili tretjo dimenzijo.
What is the third dimension? Is the point, the reality, where we experience the duality. Living in a world like this is bringing on practice everything that we have ever dreamed or thought.
In tu sta pozitivno in negativno popolnoma enaka, zato ker ju gledamo iz iste točke.
So this is why when you try to reach the light, the worst in life you are. Did it happen to you that when you are a light worker or looking to the light or angels, wherever, suddenly the worst things used to happen? And as closer you get to the light, more dark around you. This is easily to explain. As closer as you get to the light, there is more dark because you are in the center of the room. And here the light is not the center of the room. So light is not the goal of the universe. Light is the focus where we have seen our purpose. So that means it's outside. So imagine that there is a light or lantern, or how do you call it, lamp on a corner. And you see the light because it's the only thing you have in the room, and you say, I want to go there because I will feel more pleased and comfortable, hot. So I go there. But as closer I get to this focus, what happened to the rest of the room? The shadow is bigger. As close I get to the light, the shadow around me is bigger. The shadow is just trying to remember me that this is not where I belong. That I belong to the self, which is in the center, in the middle, where I can see every point from the same point of view, same distance. So the only way you can go through the third dimension is not going by light, is by unifying both of them and go through them, what we call the fourth dimension. 1, 2, 3, 4. We call this the four stages of the universe. Every being in the universe, even a flea, even a cell, a planet, a galaxy, us, has the same 4 stages. We call the first one the expression. Then we have experimentation. Then we have integration. And then transcendence. So when we focus on something, we are beings creating a new reality. And to create, we have to express ourselves outside. When the universe did this for the first time, create the time, it did like a breath, deep breath. And the wave start to go all over the reality. We call this like this. the breathing of the universe. The first is the time, then is the core, the center, holding the reality and expressing the space. So what happened when the universe did like this? We used to know it as the Big Bang. Yeah? The time, silence, and the expression. So the expression created many ways to see the reality. So the self start to live in each of these new realities, galaxies, quasars, planets, which is the third dimension. And in the fourth dimension, it has the ways to escape or go outside the third dimension. Why? Because from the third dimension, you can live just one reality in positive and negative. And at the fourth dimension, you can see why you create this path. So you have many levels of time and space where you could see why you created this. So we have 3 ways to go to the fourth dimension. By the spiritual way, by the soul way, or the body way. Spirit, soul, and body. If we go through the spirit, what we do is that we can see the reality and we can understand the reality and the fourth dimension. We used to call this point the higher self. It's not other one, it's not some guide or some master. It's just myself looking into the whole picture. So that's why when you connect with the higher self, you could see the things more clear. Because this is the light, so you can enlighten everything to see the whole picture. You can go through the soul, which is feeling the fourth dimension. You have the sensations, the feelings, you can hear, listen, people living in the fourth dimension. The first step for the schizophrenia. That's the first stage. And then we have the other, the body. We call that death. It's the easy part, the easy way. Yeah. Too much pain, too difficult, too hard. So we die. Die is easier, yeah? So it's for lazy people. We created death as a way to go here because these paths are so hard to take that death is the only thing that helps us to change all the reality once and again, even if we are not able to. We don't have to fear death because it's just a way to release. Yeah, it's just one path. If you go through this path, you could usually live hundreds of years, thousands of years. And we used to do that on the first planets and realities we created. But it was so boring. Imagine living just one life, 1,000 years being the same person. I bet you want to die. So that's why the light created the structure, the most compressed reality. And there was a part of our consciousness that said, if we go deep into the dark, it would be easier to experience more things than if we are in light. It's just for something really easy to see, which is the only way you can jump is by doing this. Yeah? So that's how you take the strength to go up, only going down. So if you want to change realities, you have to go down and then jump. Yeah? So we call that the waves of frequency, which is if this is connected like this, the frequency, where is the frequency? Here. Yeah? You see the pattern? Waves? Yeah? So you have negative and positive. It's the only way that everything moves in the universe, like that, like that. These start to move like this, like rolling rotating. So at the moment it rotates, these waves that we used to see like this, when you go straight to the point of the line, we are going to see this. Yeah, negative, positive, negative, positive. That's the only way how the light moves through the universe. So the soul, the spirit moves like this, in a higher consciousness and lower consciousness. The soul moves in positive emotions and negative emotions. And the body is the feminine and the masculine. That's why this is the shape of the DNA. Yeah, the DNA is the body or material shape of how light moves through the universe. So we came up from here, we went to the 2 points, then we create the third and then the fourth. But the universe is not like this, it's not flat. It expresses in every direction. That's why after the fourth dimension, where do we go? We already have the basement, which is the fourth. So if we are here, the fourth, we have something here. We can see the whole process, yeah, which is this shape here. So when you see the whole process, this became one eye. The eye that sees everything, once and again, once and again. That's why God's symbol is an eye, one eye. The eye that sees everything. Then we go more on this. So we have the fourth dimension and the 0 point. This is the 0 point, the middle, that became the one. And then we have the second dimension, the third dimension, the fourth dimension. Where's the fifth? The fifth dimension is the one that allows you to see the whole process from above. The pyramid. Yeah, the fifth dimension is the one that allows you to see with clarity all the process you have created. But you won't go to the fifth dimension until you realize about the fourth. Otherwise, you are not a complete being. That's why don't run to the fifth dimension. Yeah? Because if you go there and you don't have one leg, just one of these legs, so the whole structure we created will fall. So for example, if I as a being decided, for example, I want to see the most deep part of me. So I see the most deep part of me, and that's my purpose, to see the most deep part of me. So I look into it. And it's the light. So it's beautiful. So maybe in this life I create that symbol as another person. I create that person and I start to move by gravity around him or her. So when I start to move to him or her, I start to know that I'm in love of him or her. And when I got to him or her, I married, for example. And the dark starts. So what is the dark doing? Pulling me back, yeah, to say, no, this is not me. Yeah, I have to be in my center. So the most important thing is to go here. But most of the people get divorced. Yeah. Yeah, because we go to the opposite side. And this is like a pendulum. Vroom, vroom, vroom. And as most deep is the emotion, harder it goes. Yeah. So I was here in love, and then no, I don't want it anymore. But suddenly it appears again, and I said, no, I don't want to see him. But suddenly I turned the street, and there it is again. Yeah. So this became the experience of life and start to be in the infinite. So what happened here? If I don't realize that this is my own creation, I will die, and at the next life I will see this, and this again, and this again, and this again. It's a beautiful flower, but it's horrible. I had not learned yet. And because the universe says, but I want to learn, So till you don't learn, you won't finish this. And sometimes this is a partner, this is a son, this is husband, this is whatever. The thing is, the good part of it is when I am still looking to the positive in many lives until I start to look in the negative. When I go to the negative part, I became the other. So I could see from the perspective of my opposite, living the same but in a different way. So that's why the third dimension is a place where you experience all the realities that we created here as a purpose. The fourth dimension is when I realized that I created this and I said, okay, I understood. And then I looked into myself and I said, oh, I did my purpose. We usually believe that our purpose are very important things like, I don't know, change the world or whatever. But sometimes it's just tiny things in our home. And because everything is a fractal, what you do at home, you help the whole world. So we have to remember, we are only one being experiencing many different ways of being. So if there is something that the universe don't want, is that we all do the same stuff. That's why we are all different. We are meant to be like that. And we don't have to do the things that we believe we should do because others are doing this too. We have to play our own role in this flower. And by doing this, you help everyone so they don't have to live your same reality. That's why there are martyrs in the history. People that used to suffer so others don't have to suffer. And suffer is going very deep. Yeah, while everyone is here, some people go down here, and we call that hell. Yeah? But hell is not something outside. Heaven either. Yeah, both of them are a projection of our higher being and the lower being. That's why at the moment we die, we go through this to go here. So that's why we fear death, because all the dark is around. But I will get here according to the frequency I have here. Because if here I have a low frequency in my life, like all the time like this, the low frequency make me slow. In the universe we call the low frequency the past, the middle frequency present, and the higher frequency the future. So according to which frequency I'm living in this life, it will be the next one. So if my frequency is heavy and like dense, I will live here a dense reality. But if it's higher, I will go like boom, very quick. So that's why I recommend you to die laughing. If you know that you are going to die, for example, just try to read some jokes and laugh a lot, because after that the trip goes beyond. So when I arrive here to this point, I see the whole process from beyond. Transcendence is when I realize about everything, I see everything like a movie, and I say, okay, now I understand what it means. So I'm ready to go to the fifth dimension, which is look into the whole process and create a new one. So fifth dimension is the positive here. So what's the negative? The sixth dimension. Sixth dimension is the creation of the shapes, the geometry. The geometry, this is the seed of every shape in the world, every shape in the reality. It's the octahedron. Yeah, the 8 faces, which is the infinite. 8, 8, 8. So the sixth dimension is the place where everything is created. The most famous picture of this is this here. Yeah, the Star of David is the two pyramids going together and creating a vacuum. So this point here is where all the shapes that we are thinking became real. Is a dimension where we became creators of our own reality. The fifth dimension is the dimension where we could see the whole reality and understand the creation. We used to call this the masculine and this the feminine, and both create the being. Usually, in a physical way of seeing this, biologically, we have the masculine here and the feminine like this. That's why biologically we have here the uterus, yeah, and here of course this, yeah. The pyramid is a penis and testicles, and this is the ovaries and the womb, yeah. So both together create a new being, which is the seventh dimension. Seventh dimension is the enlightenment. Yeah, the enlightenment is when I could put both attributes, feminine, masculine, positive and negative, and create just one from that. And when I get enlightened, I start to express myself in a different direction, different dimension, that we call the Taurus. This is the eighth dimension. The eighth dimension is when you could see, feel, be every time and space, every reality that we have created. This is a very complicated dimension to go, because we don't even know how to handle with just one emotion here. Imagine not only every emotion of every human, but also every galaxy, every planet, every being on them. So that's, I don't recommend you to go now. That's another schizophrenia feeling. And when you put that all together, you go to the core again, which is the ninth dimension. The ninth dimension is the divine. When you return to the middle point and say, I am all this. Yep. So you start to recognize that everything that you have lived and every people you met in every reality, they were only you. And the divine is like a kid, very funny kid, that used to say when they arrived to the ninth dimension, those beings used to say, again, let's do it again. So that's why we are here. Once and again, because someone is getting fun. And it's ourselves. Yeah, so this is like a movie or a game. If you don't have bad things, you will never learn new things. So that's why the sixth dimension used to create new shapes, so they could confuse us. Because at the moment we seem to have the very point, there's something that says, that's not the way. And what is that? Is this shape, the sixth dimension, which is the uterus. What that's symbol to for us in our religions? Yeah, you know that? The devil? The devil is the cow. It's every animal that has horns, that gives milk, that feed the new ones. It's not the bad, it's the one that feed the reality. But also is the reality that confuses us. Because it's the reality based on the survivor. Eat, take care, be afraid of some, I don't know, some things that could happen, so stay at home. The protection of the mother. So we start to create culturally that the mother and the cow, which was the first mother, are bad things. That's why someday there was a man that said, if we have the Trinity with man, woman and child, let's take the woman and put the Holy Spirit. If you see, it's not doing about a joke, but usually it happens. When a man knows what to do, there's a woman saying, I wouldn't do like that. Usually they are right. Because they have all the perspective of the creation. And men only have one, reproduce. and transcendence. So they think just in sex, and to be remembered by that. That's biological. And the woman just tried to make the perfect environment so everything could happen. That's why we used to think one thing and they think in many. But separated doesn't work. The first thing is try to put them all together, what we call the being, and then we will realize that we only get in couples for a biological thing, but not spiritual thing. Because when we start the spiritual path, we realize that the feminine and masculine are within. So this is what we call the Merkaba, the structure of the movement of the universe, the main geometry. So we have three things here. One is the most important, which is the frequency. Here the energy, and here the shape or matter. If you see, these three is the Trinity of the reality. Every matter is made up with energy and made up with frequency. So if we are in a material way of living, we have to know that we are conditioned, we have many conditionings from the energy and the frequency. So the only way you can change your reality is by changing your energy and changing your frequency. These three things that we call the father, the mother, and the son, or the kid, is the Trinity that we all have within, and that in order to evolve, we have to put them all together to go farther in the evolution way. So, for example, today, in this present that we have here, we are living now in a reality that is changing constantly. We used to believe this is the very important moment for humanity, but if you go in the past, every moment was important for humanity. They thought that they were the important ones. And that's because we used to believe that we are the center of everything. And we are, but not in that way. We have a code within that says, you have to find yourself. You are the one. So everyone that hears that used to say, so I'm important. Or my culture is important. Or my religion is important. Or whatever it's me, it's important. But because we are divided and separate from each other, from this perspective of the universe, we believe that the other one is not the center. So that's one of the things that we are working on and every life and every reality we have to deal with it, which is the ego. Ego is like something very weird because we all need the ego, but not much. So why we need ego? Because in Latin, ego means I am. So, for example, in Christianity, we used to say, we are nothing, just Jesus is. Because when he was teaching, he used to say, I am the light, I am the path, I am, but it wasn't he, it was the I am. So this misunderstood concept brought us all to believe that being ourselves is bad. But if we have a sphere, and this is the center, the core of everything, I am here. Yeah, I'm just a small dot in the sphere. I am just a projection from the core of the universe. So, what is the best way to go to the core? There are two ways. One is longer, the other one is short. What do you think? In a sphere. If I decide to be myself, to be I am, so there is only one way I can go, like here. Yeah? So this way. Just one line. Here. I am. I don't care what happened around, just me. Yeah? But not just me and I don't care about anything. Is I am, so being myself, I help everyone. And there's another way, which is also good. But it's the way in which I say, I would like to be like him first. And then another one, and go from one religion to other, to one culture to other. Which is like this. Yeah, so it's a spiral. So we all usually go that way. Because it's fun. The other way is just for those that said, okay, if I don't go straight from myself, I won't help anyone. But they are usually the people that did all this path and they know how to come back. So they just go straight. So if everyone in the planet start to take care of themselves, but not from the ego, but from the ego sum, which is I am. Yeah? So everyone would reach the core. Yeah? So we have the whole network working. When we have this, usually we have this problem. Let's draw it like this. That when we have a lot of people here trying to live their lives and trying to understand who they are, and they say, I am, whatever. But this one just realized what really means I am. So when he realized it, he get enlightened. We used to call it an enlightened master or something like that. And we used to see him with all this light above. So we used to say, if we follow him, so we are going back to the light. So everyone, instead of being centered on themselves, they start to do like this. What shape is that? A pyramid. So a pyramidal system means that we are not ready to connect with ourselves, so we need the purpose of other ones, yeah, to think that in that way we are going to be enlightened. We used to call this to be tied to someone, which in Latin it is religo. So religion is a way that is not spiritual, it's just a path to go through someone. We usually think that, for example, Jesus, according to the Christianity, Jesus is a very enlightened being, yeah, opening the door for us in the heaven. But imagine a being being tied by thousands of people saying, why me? So someday he will say, leave me alone. Because we are out of our center, so we don't go to the core. We go up and we look the light through others. Okay. But remember, a being that realizes that he knows that light is not the path, it's within. So that's why the most light he got, the most suffer he received. Because this is a torus. Everything goes to the center, doesn't go up. So incredibly, the only way to connect with the spirit is with your genitals. That's why usually you see enlightened men. Why? Because you know the hypophysis, which is the gland that controls the whole body, which is here in the center, is the gland that controls especially the genital glands. Because we have to remember that the only way this goes up is by the energy generated down. That's why the 9 levels of consciousness that in our body we call chakras are separated, trying to work each one of them on a special process to help the whole being, which is the only way to go to the center is by getting unite both part to the center. So the very below and the very above all together at the same distance to the core, which is the heart. So that's why the only way to go up is by being very root here on earth. That's why we used to see the masters as humans, but the most perfect masters are the trees. Mostly because they don't talk. They are just example. They don't have any theory like I have. Yes. They just show that it works. They are centered where they are.
So,
Deep roots to take the minerals
z globokimi
with the branches, take the light in, not there, and create the own meal. Yeah, their own meal. They don't need anything from outside. They just create their own meal. And when they don't need, they just give it away by free. That's receive and give in the perfect way, being centered in the present. That's why sometimes when we get in the spiritual way, we forgot that spirit creates the biology to understand the spiritual way. Biology is not here below. It's the whole process expressed in shapes. So that's why when we say we have to be present in ourselves, it's not just to be present here in this moment, it's just to be realizing that all the reality that exists is just an expression of who I am. So that's why the only way to go to the core is by being myself. And imagine that for example, here we have the Jews and the Muslims, yeah? And suddenly, for some reason, they all realize who they are. And from the Islam, they go to the center. And from the Judaism, also go to the center. And as closer I get to myself, closer I see my enemies. For sure, the main thing we think is, what is he doing here? If this is heaven. Yeah? But as closer we get, we start to realize that the shapes are the same. And that the only way we can go to the main core is by joining all the shapes that we had created. Yeah, you see it? Huh? So everything starts to be together in the core. Yeah, so that's why there's no need not to have religion, not to have anything to be yourself. You can go to the main core through many ways, even through money. There are many different ways to get to the core. But there is only one thing that we should not do here: judge the other's ways. Because when we start to do that, we have no more that focus on ourselves. We start to look what they are doing. So I start to slow down my path towards the core. So this is when I have the whole picture, yeah, which is the symbol here. And you see, this symbol is everything. So you have the positive and the negative. Are you related to the Illuminati, for example, or Masonry? Freemasons? They have the one eye. But we usually do a bad reading of it because we used to judge from our perspectives. That's why I said, let's try to put out everything that we believe. So that's how you see how the womb, the uterus, is a devil, and the feminine and the sixth dimension and just a triangle. That the negative is not bad. Positive is not good. For the universe, it doesn't matter if you are good or bad. What the universe matters is that you realize why did you choose this path, and which ways are you going to take to return to the center. The universe don't judge, only offer options. So to see that, we have Okay. This is the main shape of the universe, which is the cube. Whoops. Why is the cube? Because we have this. Yeah, you see that? In 3 dimensions, we have the main 4 dimensions here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have the other dimensions there, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And in the center, we have the 9 and the 0. So those are the main structure of the reality. That's all that exists in the universe, just this shape. From the 0, it creates the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. Opposite to it, the 5, 6, 7, 8. And the 9 connect them all. Yeah? So if you take this shape in just 2 dimensions, you cut a slice of it, you will have this, which is an hexagon. This hexagon here is very important because every thing that we know rises from here. Yeah, everything appears from that shape. Yeah, even the cross. Yeah, everything. Everything is there. That's the main shape of everything in the universe. So every being in the universe is only one being that goes over here, and see a different perspective from the same shape. That's why in some cases, the one that goes here see a reflection of colors and they see a moon. Others see a sun, others see a cross, others see the star. Shapes from only one. So this is the resume of the reality of the whole universe. We call this the matrix. The main core of the matrix is the main shape that shows us that there is no center, that every point is the same, that every being is the same being. So whatever you do, you are just experiencing a part of this shape. So at the moment, this only being breathe and express in 9 dimensions by breathing 3 times, which is 12. The positive, the negative, and the neutral. Yeah? Breathe and express. So everything in the universe divides itself in 12 parts from the 3 main beings. The frequency, the spirit, the energy, the soul, and the matter, which is the body. So that being recognizes itself as the universe. And this main shape creates here in the perspective the main eye, which I was saying before. An eye inside a triangle. Also, you know that. Really? What does it mean? Is God, the main self. To try to heal some things, because if you are reading too much about what is going on in these moments and the future of humanity, you for sure will see that the people that use this symbol is controlling us. Yeah. Have you heard that? The thing is that sometimes we just judge these kind of things according to our present, but there is much more. Just to tell a little bit of this. This symbol was also important in the ages of Atlantis, the main civilization that created all others. So what they did, they brought the main symbols of the universe and just draw it on the walls. But the first thing that they did, because they had this connection with the whole universe, I will explain later a little bit of that. They didn't draw the symbols, they built the symbols. The ancient civilizations has the information of the whole universe, so that's why they didn't use the symbols to represent what they knew. They just built the symbols as pyramids, as circles of stones. So what they thought is the knowledge is only catch by the experience, not by reading. So you have to experience within the geometry to understand the whole. That's why they created the pyramids. So when we start to forget how to use the pyramids, we use the symbols. And one of the symbols was this. Everything is a Trinity, and we are the self that sees it all. So many thousands of years, this symbol was the main symbol of those who were looking within. Then became the main religions that killed them all. And every symbol that they had became the devil. So they start to blame these symbols and prohibit it. But the architectures and artists weren't much religious, because the only universities to study about how to build, how to understand the world were in Egypt or Babylonia. So they took all the information from there and put it on the cathedrals, hidden. The architectures we call the masons. So they built the new pyramids, what we call cathedrals. So after that, a few of them said, we don't want to be hidden anymore, and we want to speak about what we know. So the Vatican killed them all. And a few of them start to be very hidden in northern Italy, using these symbols, and in Italian language calling themselves the enlightened ones, which is the Illuminati. So what they created, they said, okay, there is a book, which in Greek is Biblion, the book of knowledge. So they created another book, because they said, this is a lie, this is not the complete truth. So they untie themselves from religion and create the conscious, which we call science, conscience science, and they create a new book, which the name is the book with one eye, which in Greek is encyclopedia. So we all have a Bible and an encyclopedia in the same in the same place. So what they did, they create our world. They gave us freedom. But suddenly, in the revolutions, social revolutions, French revolutions, industrial revolution, they realized something. And that thousands of people, if they don't have the religion here, they put the king or the president here. Because this book only works if the being is willing to know and discover who him is. So they realized people were so blind and so difficult to handle with knowledge that a few of them said, okay, let's organize it to control them all and to guide them where to go. But they created the same system as the religion. We used to call it Republica or Democratia, which is a sensation of freedom in which we decide who is going to be our next king for the 4 years. So the main problem here is that nobody in history wanted to help one by one to connect with the self. The only way to do that is education. But it's very difficult when everyone knows what to do, because that means that this guy is dead. So that's why we are living right now in a process in which this process we are living now is like something that others created for us, but because we were so concerned about other things that we forgot that we have to do it by ourselves. So are these people bad people, or we are just irresponsible with ourselves? Remember that positive and negative. The negative appears just when we forget that we are the center. To keep going with this, imagine that here, this spot here is the science, and this here is the religion. Both are at the same distance from the core. This is like big stuff, but we can put here a couple, husband and wife, father and son, the earth and Mars. So there are many opposites that are complementary in this shape, but they are also the core. So they start to create their own reality. We call this, well, I call this the mitosis of the universe. You know what's mitosis? Yeah, the division of the cells. Yeah. So the science said, I don't want to be with you anymore. I will be the center. So they create a new one. Yeah, that's mitosis. And there is the other one that creates also another one. And the religion also says, okay, I go out to do my own story. And this one too. Sorry. And this one too. And this one. You know what's that? The flower of life. Yeah? So this is constantly evolving. So every time that a new being appears here, there is another one. So this shape teaches that we are all the center. There was never and never will be a center in the universe. We call this the matrix. Matrix comes from the Latin word which means mother or womb. So the universe is a feminine, is a mother that creates every day new lives, new experiences.
Yeah.
And there is one thing that maybe make us upset about this, which is there's no purpose because there's nowhere to go. Because everywhere we go, we are in the center. So there is no direction. There is no up, below. This goes straight, all around, and within and outside. And every one of these we call an atom. So the whole universe is connected by this network from a quantum tiny shape. And they are all the main core of the universe. That's why if you want to just say what's the universe, is this. Just this. Projected in many of them. So every being that starts to exist in the universe, they start to divide from the 1 to 6 other points, which we call the 7 chakras. And sometimes we go up with the chakras, yeah, different chakras. And there are another ones that express their chakras in spheres or in spirals. Yeah, every being in the universe uses the same network, the grid. Yeah, and where is the masculine on this womb of the universe? The masculine is every line. The lines that says, okay, I choose to go through this path. That's the masculine part of the universe. The choice. We used to call the choice free will. Do you think you have free will? Look at this. The only free will you have is to decide if I go here, here or there. And according to my frequency, if I go here, there or there, in high frequency, low frequency or middle frequency. The first frequency that exists in the universe is the high frequency. Very high. Oh, light. So very high frequency. We call that the future. So the first time that exists in the universe is the future. Because everything is a projection from what I dream, what I will do. Then became the present, which is living that dream. And then, after all, the past, which is the experience I already have about living it. So after that first experience, I always think that the past is behind, when in reality it's ahead. Because someday I will find the past again, in this circle. That's why when we think that we end up with something in our lives, suddenly that person that we don't want to know anything more about, there he is. And we used to bring the responsibilities to someone outside, like God or whoever. So that's why we say, why it happens to me if I'm good? So the answer of the universe is, that's why, because you are too good, that I want to know how can you deal with it. So this process of the circle, this cycle we are living every time, is a cycle that we had created and we have projected from our main point. But the universe is always evolving, always changing. So that's why the universe wants you to move, not to be always in the same point. That's why the universe creates uncomfortable situations so we can move away. So imagine that you are here and you say, I'm so happy here, and it could be forever. So that's when the universe says, so I will send something to him. And what is that something? That is all the energies and emotions that I have that moves the wheel start to move again. Imagine that we are like a train with many wheels, and you have the tracks, to go. You decide to be always in the same sightseeing, and never move. So someday your wheels will be stuck with ferrum, rust, oxido. So oxidation. So what happened there? Those wheels are our chakras. Every wheel here is a chakra. In Sanskrit, chakra means wheel. So if all the wheels stop, you are not able to move forward. So that's when we have emotional problems in our lives. Because maybe there are 3 wheels that are willing to move, but there is another one that is so stuck that doesn't allow the other ones to move. So you have to work on all the wheels to start moving the train. And maybe one here in the head is going like this, and here in the stomach is like so stuck that the train will go out of the train. So we call that an emotional crisis. So the universe used this. If this is our body here there is another person in this structure of the universe with other chakras, but they are connected to us. So they give us some energy to move or clean some of our chakras. That's why it's important to be connected with other people and work on network. To work with others, share with others, be in love with others, share energy to keep moving. But when this is stuck, and both of them are stuck, you start couple crisis or whatever. Because the chakras are not rolling properly in between. Or one of them start to move, but the other one don't. That's when we start to believe that we need to be alone, that we must go to look for other places, other people, meet something different. But if we don't do that, we all start to be stuck around, because it's a network. So if I stuck, all the people around me start to be stuck too. This is a fractal, so it happens in our own cells. For example, a cell that is stuck became an illness. And a big sphere in the planet, for example, is a country. So if a country is stuck, it has problems with the neighbor, so it's a war. So planetarily, or in a galaxy. That's why if you notice, there are some moments in the planet when there is an illness that everyone has the same illness around the world and then disappear. And then again another one that we are all in touch with, and then, like cancer, like whatever. But suddenly we have all the same problem or around and then disappear. Because it's a own problem but reflected in the network. Talking about being stuck, that was what happened to many beings in the galaxy before we as humans exist. We had some beings here that we now used to call like Pleiadians. Do you know them? The Pleiadians? Arcturians, vegans, Lydians. Yeah, many of them doesn't have a physical body as us. And they move through dimensions like we move through houses. But doing that, it means that you're almost out of time, because you don't have space. What happened to most of them at the beginning of this galaxy was that they were living thousands and millions of years just to experience one thing. For example, some of them used to just sit in front of a seed and look into the whole process from being born of the seed and grow and everything till the tree dies. And just looking. Mm-hmm. So one of the species that we used to call the draconians, they are the ones that moves the wheel, because the draconian people are the ones that moves the emotions. So they decided to enter to the core to this system, which is Orion, and they start kind of a war. The war was talk to some of the Orion people about something and tell the other ones something different. So they created the most important emotion, doubt. And doubt moves everything. Love into fear, happiness into sadness. So they kind of feel good about everyone start moving. The ones that were looking to the tree, they said, what happened? So Draconians and the gray ones start to be happy. And the other ones said, how can we deal with this? So every species here, in every spot of this galaxy, they realized that they were so focused on themselves that they forgot about the process of integration. So they decided to put them all together and create one place, well, there were three, but one place where they could experience the integrity. So from every spot of this network, we as souls, as spirits, decided to live in this planet. And that's why when we start to remember stuff from other lives, or when we start to connect with the spiritual ways, we usually see the sky and then say, I came from that star and I would love to go back there. So it's kind of an interstellar racism. Because we used to say we are the good ones, the Pleiadians are the good ones, Draconians are the bad ones. So we have to be light workers and channel those high enlightened beings so we could bring information to fight against the dark. But there's something that we don't really know about what it means channeling. Because we are only one being in the universe. The only thing I'm doing is not talking with others. I'm just remembering. So every master, every being what we used to hear or channel, or we look for someone that is channeling, we are just looking or remembering the memories of that person in other level of consciousness. So it means that in every process of this reality, we are just putting together all the pieces from the very beginning to a main core. So every species from the universe start to bring information. They brought information to this planet, and each one of us has that information within. But what we have to do now is to deal with it and unite it in the same reality. And that's the most difficult thing, because integrate stuff in the third dimension, it's feeling in body and soul everything that is going on. So that's why also when you ask for help to extraterrestrial beings, for example, they just appear and says and they go away, because they are not allowed to interfere in our own decisions, because our decisions are their own evolution. So we create an experiment which is ourselves, and in this experiment we have to gather all the parts of who I was in many times, in many realities, in this reality. That's why I said in many times of the history we used to say, this is the time, this is the important time, we have to do it. And for sure you were waiting for the 2012, but in the 1200, it happened too. 2000 years ago too. They thought also in the 17th century. And you will feel that for many people, every day is a new day. So the time is also like that. It's not about a big change. It's about if we all decide to change at the same moment. And to do that, we have to be in the present, because the present is the core. But the problem of the present is that we believe that this is the present, and it's not. You know that this is the past? That's weird, but we're in the past. This is not the present exactly. This is a sensation, a feeling that is the present. But every structure that existed in the universe, like this, is past. The only way you can feel the present is when you go within and you feel the future, present and past, all in the same moment. We call that the eternal present. That's the only stage where you can change realities. Why is that? Because this is not the present exactly, because you are conditioned by all the patterns in your DNA, in your thoughts, in your beliefs. So you will project the future according to your past, about what you feel is a good future. But every movement you do, every word you do, every thought you think is just a reaction in the DNA of what others in my DNA didn't do or did. That's the ego, as I said. So if I project the future according to the ego, it won't happen. Maybe it will happen just a tiny part of it. But when I do it from the ego zoom, I will be joined to every ego zoom around the network. So that creates a new reality. It's not just me thinking about it, it's a lot of us thinking about it. And also, to create a new reality, you never should think about how it's going to be. Because according to that frequency, according to that thought, you are thinking always in future. So it will never happen because it's always future. The only way to change the present is by changing the present. And that's very difficult because the question goes to you that, do you dare to change? We usually believe that changing things is changing outside stuff to be more comfortable as I am. But it's not like that. So that's why I, myself, have to change my perspective of who I am and where I am in order to help others to change too. So in other words, we are, as humans, just neurons in the brain of the planet Earth. And only one neuron can do anything. They need the network, synapses. So this is a synapsis. The connection between everyone and respecting the place of everyone. But suddenly we will realize that we are just cells inside another big being, which we call Mother Earth. So this is the problem. When we are here just dancing on this planet and trying to figure out what's our own mission in the world, and suddenly it's the planet who is willing to change. And why that's the problem? Because we are the planet. So if the planet wants to change, we need to change. There is something that shows us that the planet is ready to go in another level of consciousness. We call it internet. It's a very superficial thing, but internet is something that helps people right now to understand that there is a network, invisible network, that connects us all. And it's the first time that we can be connected all around the world, know what's happening all around the world. Doesn't matter the culture, the languages, we are all connected like this, not pyramidal anymore. So that's an evolution way in which the planet is saying, this is the moment in which I need to change into a new reality. We call that go in a higher octave in music. There are 9 sounds in the universe. So when we experience all this in one level of consciousness, it's time to create another one. Yeah, and go to another point of view. So we have to move from here to there as a whole being, as a planet. So everything that we are living now, it's the process of transformation and evolving of consciousness of the planet Earth, not humanity. Planet Earth, aware that it's the moment to transcend to another level of consciousness and to move here. In order to go there, to this point, we have to go through this. It's the only way. That's why this is a mess right now. To close this part, the whole information means that we are now reconnecting ourselves in the network of consciousness, of a new level of consciousness in the planet. And we can't do it going through the side of the path, going through a future. We have to do it through ourselves within and changing our perspective of the dimensions. Otherwise, we are just doing this. So after the break, we will keep moving with this, how to change from this to this. Yeah? This is kind of trying to resume the place where we are, that we call the universe. The first time I tried to explain this, I was talking 9 hours without stop. So that's try to put it all together, squeeze it. Well, now we know where we are as a structure. After the break, we will see how to change him from within. I think so.
Mr. Simon.
Okay. Thank you.